This ad-free episode of Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is made possible through a grant provided by Jazz Pharmaceuticals. From Off-Script Media, I am Matthew Zachary, and this is Out of Patience. On today's show, Andrew and I welcome two incredibly inspiring people to opine on the current status of lung cancer. You know, stigma, the increasing prevalence in young women, new treatment options, all that good stuff. And as an added bonus, both guests are cancer survivors. Because cancer survivor is the LinkedIn profile skill that no one wants to have. Anyway, Nina Beaty is the creator of the EmPat Cancer Project, a nonprofit that uses technology to increase meaningful communication for those with cancer, and a legacy friend of mine, Katie Brown, Vice President of Support and Survivorship Programs at the LUNGevity Foundation. And a quick disclaimer to our listeners that this episode was taped live at Off-Script Media Studios in New York City long before the COVID pandemic set the world on fire. Enjoy our conversation. And here we are, back at Off-Script Media headquarters. I'm surrounded by some incredible people for this particular episode, the least of which being Andrew McDowell. Hello, sir.
That's me, the least among you, Andrew McDowell. Great to be here.
But again, the throwback shows that I'm doing now, I get to reunite with incredible people who were part of my past, who are still part of my present, and will ideally be part of my future, who were the Breakfast Club, rapscallion mod squads of people that were boots on the ground, yelling and screaming. And Katie Brown from LUNGevity, you were one of them way back in the day.
I was.
Welcome back, not to the stupid cancer show, but welcome back to sitting across from me with a microphone in front of your face.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. I'm great. How are you?
Is this your first time in New York in a while?
It's my first time this year.
Oh, yeah?
But it's my first time in studio with you.
Very nice.
I usually just call in.
Well, you're welcome.
Eye contact is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Right?
We are also joined here today by Nina Beaty. Welcome.
Welcome.
I don't know how it's possible we know as many people in common as we do, and we've never met before.
Because
being New Yorkers
yeah.
and cancer people and advocates.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'm really happy to be here.
It's phenomenal to have you here in the studio. I was looking just on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, of course, is the barometer for, you know, how cool you are these days.
Right.
And we have 387 common connections. Now, I know in the LinkedIn media, the LinkedIn bell curve, that means nothing.
Right.
But, of course, there's a fraction of those people that are truly important. Katie being amongst them, of course. You're welcome. But it's incredible how we've never really crossed paths. Mm-hmm. But I admire what you've done. I think that what you put together with your nonprofit is very innovative. We're going to talk about that. And clearly, you have an incredible story to tell, because it's not just the nuances of, oh, here's my story. There's a lot packed in there that are really important nuggets people can take away from how they can choose to live their life and make a difference and be proactive and be their own advocate. So, but let's start with, you know, we could just say stupid lung cancer. I think I can still get away with that. The word stupid itself
Lung cancer is stupid.
isn't
How about
trademarked
that?
though. So stupid lung cancer.
Stupid lung cancer. All right. That
But
works.
this goes back to, you know, Katie, when we were first talking about this, the young adult lung cancer conversation, which is the largely women who out of nowhere, non-smoking, healthy, they recycle, you know, they're eco-friendly, they're vegan.
They run marathons.
They run marathons. You know, how the hell could I get lung cancer?
Right.
And that was even before we knew there were like 80 kinds of lung cancers.
Right.
So let's talk about the origin of what was lung cancer. Like, when you've been in this a long time.
Yeah, a long time, since 2002, actually. And my dad was diagnosed with small cell lung cancer. And back then it was just small cell and non-small cell. There wasn't all these different types of lung cancer out there. There wasn't any treatment options out there either. Not other than chemotherapy and radiation, which is what they had used 30 years before he was diagnosed. So we've
Same
come
shit, different day.
a long way. Yeah, lots of shit. We've come a long way.
It's okay. This show, not a charity. We can say we want.
Yeah.
Andrew's leering at me.
It's all good.
Don't make her
It's all
say
good.
shit.
No, don't. It's not okay. It's not okay. So if you were to look histologically at the last, obviously, almost 20 full years since you've been doing this, what are the most striking shifts and changes in the way we think about lung cancer, in the stigma and the judgments and the perceptions people have, young adult or otherwise? The entire cancer conversation has changed, at least in this country, with a focus on quality of life and personal interests and the jargon of personalized medicine. What's your perspective from your perch?
So from my perch, kind of looking backwards, technology has been huge in the role of self-advocacy and patient advocacy and advocacy organizations. So just having a show like this, just having social media platforms, being able to share your story and blogs and other forms of media have really shined the light on a lot of our unmet needs and the barriers to care that patients deserve. So I've seen just a huge progress in that regard. Also, I've seen a lot of progress in terms of research in lung cancer because, like I said, with my dad's diagnosis, there were no real options for him. And today there are clinical trials that are keeping people alive, like stage 4 patients alive for decades.
Well, that's the idea. The landscape has drastically changed, and I think about like how the FDA used to approve maybe 4 drugs a year, and then starting maybe in 2016 they were approving like 60 drugs a year.
Right.
And then this one new indication was found to help another. Like the drug is, it has tentacles, good tentacles. Like
Right.
just because we're not targeting, this drug is only for kidney cancer, it also helps melanoma and it also helps Hodgkin's lymphoma. This idea of these unicorn drugs
Right.
have truly transformed the landscape. But you're seeing that incredibly prevalent in lung cancer specifically.
Specifically in lung cancer, and then with the identification of biomarkers in certain types of lung cancer, that also goes towards targeted therapies and precision medicine, and that's helping people live longer and better with lung cancer.
Especially the relapse patients too. That's a whole other world of it's one thing to get it once and you think you're out of the woods, but then again, hey, back with a vengeance. And now even today, there's stuff for you.
Yes, absolutely.
One question I'm curious about, the fact that the FDA is processing more therapies and approving more therapies than they did in the past, is that due to major innovations? Is it due to increased efficiency at the FDA? Is it due to increased advocacy? Is it all of them? Is it something else?
Yeah, I would say all of the above. I know at LUNGevity, we have a great relationship with the folks at the FDA, and we make it a point to bring patients to the table so that they can see, essentially who they're working for. And the patients let them know, what those gaps are and how they can sort of streamline the process and make things a little bit better. Patients want treatment options.
So let's hand it over to our special guest, Nina Beaty. You've been sitting there very patiently, squirming to, I have so much to say. The floor is yours. You have an incredible story to tell. Take us away.
Well, I guess I came at the fortunate time in life. I mean, it's so great because I was very aware. I was diagnosed in 2014. And at that time, they did. Had standard treatment, which was chemo, radiation, and then prophylactic radiation to the brain. That was a hard one to decide on.
Right.
But I just went and I found out that they have the same protocol in the BAM, British Association, and I thought, well, if they got it over there in England, they got it here. It isn't just a crazy American thing.
Blimey.
So that encouraged me to go be brave and go get the prophylactic brain radiation.
You were given the choice, though. You were made aware of it.
Yes, and we'll put a pin on that because I've had to really coach people about that. So many people who are terrified the way I was to get, when there's no evidence of cancer in your brain, it's hard to get people to say, oh yeah, I'm going to sign up for brain radio.
Right.
Woohoo! You know, like, no, I don't think so. So it was a tough decision, but because I realized it was part of the protocol, because small cell moves really fast, as opposed to non-small cell.
Yeah, let's talk about that because we were discussing before the show. I've done a lot of work in hematology, and there's Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's.
Right.
Thanks for naming that, docs. So what is the difference between small cell and non? Obviously, beyond the non-existence of a small cell, I'm assuming. Is that what it is? It's there or it's not? A small cell is non-there? I'm just an armchair idiot. Go ahead.
Well, from what I understand, it's that it's much smaller, and it's when they look under a microscope, it's glass. It's like ground glass particles.
It's like oatmeal.
Yeah,
it's like oatmeal.
And so
that sounds lovely.
Because
I know, right?
you can't have surgery, because if you have surgery on your tumor, it'll just spread the whole thing wide open.
Oh my, like a glitter bomb.
Yeah.
All right, so we know it's a glitter bomb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
You know, I will never look at glitter the same.
And again, you're welcome.
And then the whole thing is, once let's say you go through the chemo radiation, the body is now primed to have, the little cells are going to go, whoo, I know where we didn't go, the brain. Let's go to the brain. My little pretties, you know. So then it goes up to the brain.
That was a quality Wicked Witch of the West.
Well, that's how I envisioned it. I really did. It's like, because I have to talk to people about it.
Right.
You know? So then I say, and we don't want it up there, do we now? You know, it's like,
In your little brain.
Neurons.
like, no. And then, so then it's up there, and then you get brain cancer. So you really want to protect that, prevent that. That's why it's called prophylactic.
Is there a risk associated with that? Like if they told me you have a 5% chance of brain metastases, I probably wouldn't do this. But if they said you have a 95% chance that this is going to hit your brain in the next 10 years, yeah, zap me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the statistics. I just know that it was strongly recommended by the radiologists.
Yeah, it's small cell and non-small cell. So small cell is about 15% of the lung cancer diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And whereas non-small cell, you'll have formed tumors or masses. Small cell is more like oatmeal. It's kind of, and I love the glitter analogy. I always thought of it, and that's so beautiful, because I lost my dad to lung cancer. I always think of it as like a gunshot blast.
Right.
And so it's very difficult to do surgery or to do any type of targeted treatment on a gunshot blast or glitter or oatmeal. Yeah. And so if you're very lucky and it's found by accident, because there are no symptoms until later stages, some people might be able to have surgery, but the majority of people to date have had to have standard treatment, and it does tend to spread, and the first place that it goes is to the brain, and that's where it went with my dad as well.
Are there different stages of lung cancer, small cell, non-small cell, like there are with other cancers?
Yeah, so with non-small cell, there is stage 1 through stage 4. After, stage 3 is metastatic outside of the lung. And then with small cell, historically, it's been limited stage and extensive stage, but now they're trying to put numbers on that as well, because they're doing a lot of research into small cell, and they're coming out with some targeted treatment plans for those folks.
But it's nice to have some kind of real scale attached to, it's all right and holy shit.
I'm very aware of my breathing during this conversation and the organs that I'm using to do that breathing with.
Yeah. So what were your symptoms? Speaking of breathing and lung cancer.
I think what Katie said is right. I had almost no symptoms, except that I did Pilates and I had trouble holding my breath for 4 counts. And friends, this is kind of interesting. I had a lot of friends like, oh, it's winter, you just have some sort of respiratory thing. But part of me knew, because I was aware of my body, that there was something slightly wrong. And so when I got to the point where I had an early detection scan, which is a whole other thing, I went and got the scan partially because I think I was aware that something in the back of my mind told me it was a good thing to do.
Well, you know your body.
Yeah. So I thought that's odd. And it turned out the fluid had already begun filling up in my lungs in reaction to the cancer.
Wow.
But it was way at the bottom of my lungs. They didn't even have to aspirate it. But I was diagnosed as treatable stage. And it's treatable and untreatable, which is pretty horrifying, you know.
That is the worst binary recommendation ever
Right.
from a doctor.
I was like,
Right.
well, we
can cure you or see ya.
But actually, that happened to me. I
Oh,
sat
boy.
next to a woman where she was in the other category.
Oh,
She
no.
said, they didn't tell me to go get some clinical trial. What? And then when I realized they
Well,
sent her
there
home,
probably wasn't one then for her. You know,
she was too advanced.
right. But
So,
you know, they're
yeah.
working on trials for advanced stage now too.
Yeah.
So for someone who lost their dad to extensive stage lung cancer, that's very exciting for me. I wish he would have been diagnosed today
Right.
rather than in 2002.
Oh, for sure.
But it's very exciting, especially for all of the patients that we support at LUNGevity.
Yeah.
I think it's important to talk about judgments and stigma. I alluded to this before. It was at the cornerstone of Stupid Cancer, where you want to join a community that understands what you're going through. This jargon today of peer-to-peer health is important, but it's basically tribal. You want to find that tribe that gets it and won't say this or this or this. And you mentioned before the show that you were a smoker, but you stopped at the age of 30, which was a while ago. And yet still, you're predisposed to this. But were you made aware of that predisposition?
Not at all. I've actually had to tell people, did you smoke? I have had to be an advocate in a way, saying, did you smoke? If you gave up, it doesn't mean if you had a certain kind of smoking history that you won't get it the way I did when you turned 60.
You're not out of the woods
Right.
by going cold turkey.
If you breathe, you're not out of the woods.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's the only thing. This fun running joke amongst my cronies in the last 15 years is there's no such thing as prevention, except maybe pet ownership. Don't get a dog, and then you will never be an owner of a pet. There you go.
Right.
So what are the other causes of lung cancer?
Well, there's pollution. The
Yes.
World Health Organization put out a report not too long ago about the effects of pollution for folks diagnosed with lung cancer who didn't have a smoking history. There's radon, there's asbestos. They're doing a lot of research into whether or not there's a hereditary component, family history. And then, sometimes we just have bad genes.
Bad luck.
Bad luck.
There was a report out of The Guardian a couple of years ago, and it was very controversial. So, of course, I had the author on the show, which basically said that cancer is a combination of bad luck and bad luck.
Yeah.
And today we call those social determinants of health. Another jargon thing going on there. It basically means that the shit that happened to you will cause other shit to happen to you. No one ever explains it that simply before. But I love the fact that in the advocate pay it forward model here, and Andrew, you smoked for a while and then you stopped when you were 33, and it was a long time ago, and you are now aware, maybe for the first time, that didn't end your risk of pet ownership.
Yeah, I stopped out of concern for my health, of course, and doing so is, of course, advisable. Knowing
just don't start.
Yeah, don't start, but please stop.
Knowing that you
Right.
can still get lung cancer after quitting smoking should not discourage anyone from quitting smoking.
No, absolutely not, because smoking cigarettes can cause, heart disease and a plethora of other diseases. So quit. But just because you quit or just because you never smoked doesn't mean that you can't get lung cancer.
Right, which goes to one of the things that my friend Fran Drescher said on the record is that the only cure is stage 1. And what that means different things to different people, but this idea of if there's a way to actually look at your body and see if you are predisposed to some crazy shit happening, you should probably do that if it's affordable, accessible, and accessible.
Right.
So, Nina, you were made aware of a screening or some way to figure out, just because I smoked, what are my risks for these things, and can I do something? Talk to us about that.
Well, at the time, my mother had what they call regular lung cancer.
Good old-fashioned lung cancer.
Good old non-smell. And she was sort of not doing that well. She actually had, it was on oxygen and stuff like that. So she happened to have a good relationship with a radiologist who stopped by when I was there for lunch. And her radiologist asked my smoking history. And it was her radiologist who said, you know, you grew up in New York with a lot of pollution. Your mother was a 4-pack-a-day smoker. So there was lots of car rides where we all had to smoke.
Right.
See?
I remember those. Right.
Yeah.
Airplanes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Airplanes.
Good old-fashioned Pan Am cigarette smoking cabins.
Yeah. Or your office
New
mate.
York bars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rip Pan Am.
So she said I was low risk, but I should get the scan anyway, just because of these other factors, which we didn't even think about. I mean, did you, Andrew?
Oh, no.
Think about these other things, yeah. So that's how I got the scan.
And is it like a CT scan? Is it a specialized scan?
It's a low dosage CT scan, so it's not going to have a lot of radiation, and I think it's been improved now as a prevention.
It is. So a group of lung cancer advocacy organizations really pushed for some sort of early screening for people with lung cancer. Fortunately and unfortunately, the fortunate part is that we were able to get early CT screening for people with a smoking history. There are criteria. You have to be 55 or older. You have to have had 30-pack year smoking history to qualify for that. So that's either 30 years, 1 pack a day, or 15 years at 2 packs a day.
Or 7.5 years at 3 packs a day. I could go on and on. This is just math.
Yeah. I'm feeling oddly disappointed that I don't qualify for either of those.
Right. Well, maybe you do. You just don't know.
Just
You
lie to
You
us.
might not remember.
Right. It's a long time ago, the blackout years.
It is. So while we encourage that for anybody that has a smoking history and that fits that criteria, and that's covered by Medicare right now, is it doesn't help the people with no smoking history.
Correct.
There's still no mammogram for people with lung cancer. You know what I'm saying? There's not that test. There's not that blood work yet.
Lest we forget the lung brush.
Oh.
The Saturday Night Live skit from the 1980s, where they put a toilet scrubbing thing down your esophagus. We'll put I will find this on YouTube.
Please do.
It is one of the funniest SNL skits called the
goodness.
lung brush.
I'm gonna have
as
to.
a
I'm
cure
gonna
for
Google
lung
that.
cancer.
I'm gonna Google it.
So let's bring back the lung brush.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the dentists have the solution.
Yes, exactly. But to your point, Katie, this alliance, I hate the word alliance and coalitions, but there really was a strong banding together of advocate groups that at least got this in place. Because if you do have a history of smoking and you haven't even smoked in 20 years,
Right.
you should have the right to know you're at risk.
Right.
And get that stage 1 or get this crap out of my body stuff.
Right.
So
And dive something else.
Right. And for those people who are still smoking, at age 55, you're still smoking, you have that smoking history, you can get the scan.
if you don't mind, perhaps I could be a use case here. I'm 47. I did smoke from the age of roughly 21, so I started late. What a fool.
You don't belong here anymore.
Through 33. Well, I was stupid, so
Late.
I totally belong. So would it be to my advantage and to the advantage of others in my position to seek out a scan, even if there was a significant expense associated with it?
I would say that definitely have the conversation with your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know your body. Have the conversation with your doctor. If you have a cancer in your family, that might be something that they take into consideration. If the scan is affordable and will offer you peace of mind, I've had them done since I lost my dad. I don't have a 30-pack history, but I have a really
Shame on you.
I know, right? But I have a really great doctor who knows that this is in my family, and I grew up in a smoking household. And that, we're all at risk. So he watches me. I'm like, you're going to save my life.
Nina, I like to talk about how when you enter the Shit Happens store, there's usually no greeter. But once you finish shopping in that store, you become the greeter for other people out there. And you are clearly doing that now. I want you to talk about how you funneled your advocacy efforts into this wonderful nonprofit initiative.
Well, I started out after... with my own patient need, which was I was sitting in a treatment chair for 6 hours at a time. This is before the clinical immunotherapy trial. But I didn't always have friends there. It was during the day, it's lots of time. And I
Lonely.
was like, yeah. So I thought, okay, I didn't have somebody answering questions like, how am I? So I thought, I'll just send a text. And then what I realized is that the emojis were pretty pathetic for what I wanted to say, which was tired, I'll talk to you later, or busy right now getting treatment or waiting for treatment. There's a lot of, so I ended up thinking, well, I wish I had my own set of emojis for while I'm in treatment to send to my friends, like as a quick hello to them, let them know how I was doing. So I did get through the first 2 years, and I started creating characters based on some drawings I did. M, which stands for empathy, and Pat for patient. And I created 18 animated GIFs or animated emojis that are free to download.
Yeah, and if you are familiar with texting on iPhones, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have custom stickers that live in your text universe out there, and you can very easily go to the App Store and look for EmPat, EmPat,
yeah,
and download these. And they're animated and they're fun, and it would be fun to see if they can move into like the memoji space. Or you get your animated face just all sad or happy, but it's such an indicative product of having gone through an experience and seeing a gap in the mental health, the emotional well-being, how do you end the isolation? How do you normalize it to the extent that it's even remotely possible to do? So kudos for that. What kind of response have you seen?
Well, it's interesting which ones are very popular. And one of the ones is overwhelmed. I have one of my characters holding the...
Hang on. Start over from one of my characters.
Yeah. I have one of my characters being overwhelmed, and it shows a vista up over his head. So it's a weight bar, and the water's dripping, and he just like he's under the weight of pressing.
Like Atlas.
Yes, like Atlas. And so it's just a lot of work for him to hold it up. And that's true from social workers to caregivers to patients. I think everybody feels it all comes on as a bit of a surprise, and it's overwhelming from all those different aspects. So that's a very popular one.
What I love about EmPat, and there are examples of people who've come up with greeting cards that provide the people connected to a person who's going through a therapy with a deeper understanding of the emotional impact of this experience. There are just a few notes on the piano that people tend to play when they hear that one of their friends is sick. And things like EmPat expose the rest of the piano.
Look at you. Bravo, Andrew.
Yeah. And then, yes,
That's
exactly,
deep.
because on some of mine...
By Jack Handy.
Right.
I have having a good day and gratitude. Thank you so much for helping me today. Things like that. So it goes the whole thing from I'm sad, I don't feel well, to boy, I'm having a good day. And so
again, this is so emblematic of how we find our way through, and just to say it again, become the greeter for the next person that invariably enters that shit happens store.
Right. And how far we've come.
Yeah.
Because, in 2002, there wasn't all of these social platforms
There was
or
no internet.
emojis or anything like
Dial
that.
up.
So
We
there
should
was
play the
dial-up.
AOL dial-up noise.
There was
now.
dial-up. I started a message board for people impacted by lung cancer. And so that was a place for people just to connect and say, hey, I'm in the, what did you call it? The shit house?
The shit happens lung cancer store. The shit house. No, that's when we got in trouble as kids.
Oh, sorry. And now we're looking at these great customized emojis to express feelings because that's how we're communicating these days. So that's pretty
We
cool.
mentioned LUNGevity a lot. We'll put links in the description of the show, of course, but we should probably mention that you are a dominant advocacy force in this country for a very long time. Let's talk about the organization.
Yeah, for a very long time. So LUNGevity's been around for 20 years now. And I've been full-time with LUNGevity in their survivorship arena for 10. So this is my 10-year anniversary. And LUNGevity is the leading lung cancer focused nonprofit in the nation. We have the most lung cancer resources. We have the largest online community. We have amazing researchers and scientists on staff. And we have amazing advocates like Nina who really want to pay it forward, be a mentor for others, share their story, come to shows like this,
Yes.
and to raise awareness about how important it is to talk about lung cancer and to just self-examine yourself and your surroundings and take care of your health.
So as we start to wrap, I always like to turn it back over to our resident survivors and ask them a couple of questions. One is, what would you tell yourself the day after you were diagnosed that you would have liked to have heard? And what is your message to that new person that enters the same shit happens store?
It may sound like a bit of a leap, but what I had to go through was learning how to love myself. I'm getting very emotional right now. I think that I was so hard on myself my whole life. And I think I wish it took lung cancer for me to realize what was important to me in life. And I wasn't sure my values, they weren't bad, but they weren't targeted to things that I really cared about. So this whole experience has helped me really focus. And if I'd known, if you survive this, you're going to be able to really make a difference and your life will suddenly have new meaning, that would have really encouraged me a lot.
So here you are.
Yeah.
In the store as the Walmart greeter. Walmart, not a sponsor.
Yeah.
And someone walks in and sees you. What do you tell them?
I'd give them a hug probably and say, be careful of, your lungs and your life. And it's very precious. I mean, people say, well, it's very hard for people to imagine almost dying, but that's what happened to me. And so when you've actually been through that experience, as people do in many other ways, not just with lung cancer, I realize that. But it really does change your perspective. So the person in Walmart would just say, you're lovable, you matter to me.
And here's a coupon code.
I mean, what do you think?
I believe that the "you're not alone"
Yeah.
still carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But these days, people want it backed up by "show me how." And there are so many more ways to show them how today than ever before, because you can't know everything. And when you enter this market,
Right.
it's not like you're buying a fridge or a car and you could pre-research it. No one says, I can't wait to get lung cancer and go on this clinical trial that just got passed by the FDA. That doesn't happen. So what a great way to end the show on that fabulous note of empowerment.
Beautiful.
So Katie Brown from LUNGevity, Nina Beaty, EmPat. What's the website?
EmPatProject.com.
EmPat Project. Again, we'll put links in the episode description. And as always, Andrew McDowell,
That's me, the least among you.
the least among us.
That'll be my tagline for this episode only.
Okay.
I will agree to that. All right, folks. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
That's all for today, folks. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and tell all your friends to listen. Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a product of Offscript Media. Our executive producer is Matthew Zachary. Our senior producers are Jen Horangeff and Andrew McDowell. Darren Tunn is our production intern. It is recorded, mixed, and edited by Matthew Zachary. Our theme music is by the Mike Van Allen Quintet and by Mara. For advertising and media inquiries, email media@offscript.com. Hit us up at contact@offscript.com to share comments, feedback, and make guest recommendations. For more information, visit offscript.com.